So last but not least, we do have Barbara. How you doing, Barbara?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Hi, baby. It's my 3-year-old. I love you.
So, Barbara, as a cancer patient, do you want to talk about your experiences a little bit and how you feel the Texas medical system is adequately or not adequately equipped to fight cancers?
Sure.
Especially in comparison to the way a doctor in, say, Colorado would approach things.
All right, I'll start with my experience. When I was 31 years old on my birthday, I was diagnosed with stage 3 invasive breast cancer. And I had a 1.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old at the time, and I was completely terrified because I thought I was going to die. Well, I went through 4 months initially of chemotherapy, and I thought it was over, but when I had my double mastectomy surgery, they found out that it had spread in multiple spots into my blood vessels. So I redid chemotherapy a second time. 4 more months of that, so 8 months total chemotherapy. And after that, I went through 33 rounds of radiation, and I just finished that about 3 weeks ago. And so right now, as it stands, I am cancer-free.
All right.
So I'll touch a bit on my experiences and how it would differ from Colorado. If I was a patient in Colorado, I would be able to legally access medical cannabis, but because I live in Texas, anything that I choose to do with marijuana in particular would be considered illegal. So it makes it a little tricky because if I get found out, I could be arrested and put in jail for trying to make myself feel better, which isn't acceptable in my opinion.
Hell no. Hell no.
No. So I used it, I'll openly say it, I used it illegally the whole entire time I was going through cancer treatments. And it helped me. It helped me eat. I said this before, but I would sit in chemo and I would eat weird stuff like jambalaya, spicy food. And everyone would look at me strange and be like, how is she doing that? Because I had smoked right before I got in there, to be honest with you, because it made me feel better. I was prescribed so many different prescription pills, it's unreal. I recently made a list. Some of you are friends with me on Facebook, some of you aren't, but if you aren't, feel free to add me. But I made a list of all of the prescriptions I was prescribed, and it's unreal. In total, I mean, from the beginning, the amount of prescriptions, I would say upwards 50 of 60 different ones that they kept giving me. And nausea pills and opiates, and they gave me hydrocodones and fentanyl patches. Like what? No. So I didn't take them because I didn't want to get addicted to that kind of thing, and I felt like I was doing fine with the cannabis. So that's the difference between Texas and Colorado, because in Colorado I wouldn't be considered a criminal.
So chemo, 50 or 60 different prescriptions.
Yeah,
radiation.
I was actually given 7 different chemo drugs.
How much have you spent?
The total cost of my cancer treatment in Texas was $1.4 million. And that is from start to finish and not including my reconstruction that I will have this year. And if I lived in Colorado and I had a medical cannabis card, I would not be spending $1.4 million. So you know what that means for me and my family is I'm going to have to file bankruptcy. You know, I'm in my early 30s. I got 2 kids to take care of, and it is forcing me in the poorhouse.
Because they made a weed illegal.
Exactly.
I don't know about the rest of you all, but this makes me very angry. You may not be able to tell it, but it really just makes me mad.
It's immoral.
$300,000 a year for every person that gets diagnosed with cancer.
Every single time I sat in the chemo chair, it was $70,000. $70,000 once a week for almost 9 months, and that doesn't include the surgery cost. I've had, like I said, I had a double mastectomy, and I also had another surgery to have a port implanted in my chest, and the radiation cost, and all the prescriptions, $1.4 million. Yeah, you're telling me.
So, Barbara, I know there are other patients out there today, and I know that some of them that may be here or may be watching on YouTube or see this later are still in the cannabis closet. What advice would you have for patients that are in the cannabis closet?
My advice is that you need to stand up, make your voice heard, because the longer you stay in the closet, the longer Prohibition will succeed, and they're winning. So we need to stand up and say, look, this is not okay. This is not okay, and this is how I feel. And eventually, they will hear us. They will have no choice but to hear everybody roar. You see what I'm saying?
If you are concerned about the confidentiality, like, you're identifying information, you can go to your representative and say, I'm going to talk to you about something that's very personal, confidential to me. Do you mind keeping it, confidential? And a lot of times they will absolutely do that, because I don't think that any of these reps are writing press releases about the people that visited them about marijuana. So that's what I tell doctors. Sometimes it's hard for me to twist the arms of doctors to get them to do this because it's their profession. And I'm like, nobody's going to be, calling the media about you coming into their office about marijuana. So you don't necessarily have to go as far as Barbara has. She's a hero. But you can have, there's varying levels.
Thank you.
Yes.
That is so weird. I'm not afraid. I've said it on the national news. I've said if anybody who wants to talk to me about it, I've been very open about it, because I feel like it's my life, and, other people in my situation who need to hear this, who need to feel better.
That's right. Thank you.
So we've been talking a lot about Colorado, and you recently made a trip up there. So can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced while you were up there, kind of the difference that being legal makes, and also any advice you would have for somebody thinking about making a patient trip to Colorado?
Okay. So yes, I recently went to Colorado, and the trip in all was pretty awesome, actually. I got there, and I met with this really great older man who was like, hey, I'm a grower. Why don't you come on over? Here, look at my greenhouse. I was in awe. I walked in and I was like, are you kidding me? This is legal right now? It was amazing. Everybody there is just totally supportive, and it's different than here, because I talk to a lot of people who are for it, but then I talk to a lot of people who aren't for it. But there it's like a whole nother world. And as far as what happened on the way back, I had an incident. I was riding with someone else who I went to Colorado with in their vehicle. And we got pulled over on the way back, and the vehicle was searched, and they found cannabis products in a lockbox under the driver's seat of the car. Mind you, it was not my truck. I did not have the keys. It was not my lockbox, and I was in the back seat of the car. And I am now facing charges because of that. So what I would say, and my advice is, if you do go to Colorado, please, whatever you do not knowingly bring anything back. And if you were to travel with anyone else, do not come over that state line with marijuana, because it's not worth it. You can get it here, surprisingly, and be a lot more discreet about it. But they're looking for people, so I wouldn't make it a habit of going there for product. fair warning.
Thank you, Barbara, for sharing your personal experience.
You're welcome.
I have one final question for you. So, if something like whole plant were passed here in Texas, how would that make a difference for patients, cancer patients, epilepsy patients, other patients? What difference in the quality of life can that make for a patient if that were to be legal here?
Well, for one, I mean, look at me. Do I look sick right now? No. Because I've been dealing with this since May of 2014, and the differences it has made in my life has been tremendous. I have been able to take care of my children. I've been able to be active. I've been able to go to the Capitol. I have done things. I've carried on with my life. I've not laid in bed. I've not wasted away. I gained 25 pounds. I ate whatever I wanted. I never threw up, not one time, on 7 different chemo drugs, and I don't know many people who can say that. So the difference is tremendous.
Is that all you got, Barbara?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this concludes our panel discussion for the day.